A Department of Commerce official who previously worked for the Census Bureau tells CNSnews.com that IT problems affecting the accuracy of the census will be worked out in time for non-response operations next month. The non-response follow-up efforts are starting soon, next month. I want to ask you about a Commerce Department official who testified and said that there is IT problems right now going on in the census that could affect accuracy. There's also a Government Accountability Office report that said the same thing. Could you talk about why this is happening and what steps the Census Bureau is taking and your office to correct these problems?
Okay. Back a couple of years ago, there was a decision made that the non-response follow-up would be a paper-based operation rather than using the handheld computers that were used for address canvassing when everyone went around to get the addresses. So that was a very late design change. At that point, the Census Bureau had to go on an accelerated schedule to put the IT systems in place to support hundreds of millions of questionnaires that the original design didn't account for. So they've been working very hard on that accelerated schedule. I think the Inspector General and GAO pointed out that that's very high risk when you have a strict deadline, a short time period, and a critical operation. So the Census Bureau has made huge progress. There's always risks. I think there'll be risks up to the last minute, and it's certainly the duty of GAO and IG to point that out. The Census Bureau has been working 24/7, night and day, to really alleviate those risks and to make sure that the system's in place that they need. They've made great progress. They're doing well. The Census Bureau is there to oversee the Census Bureau? The Commerce Department is there to oversee the Census Bureau and to make sure that all of those things that are supposed to happen to mitigate the risk are happening. That's what we're doing. We've been watching it very closely, and I have a lot of confidence that they're going to have what they need in place when they need it by the time non-response follow-up starts.
Why do you think that the decision was made late to change the method of counting and doing the follow-up?
I mean, why did they decide not to use the handheld computers?
Yeah, who made the decision and why do you think it was made so late?
That was a decision that was made by the last Secretary of Commerce in the past administration, so I wasn't there when the decision was made. It'd be difficult for me to comment in great detail as to why the decision was made. But once it was made, then I think the Census Bureau changed gears very quickly and went to carry that out, the new design.
And do you think this is going to be worked out? The kinks will be worked out by the time the non-response follow-ups are began?
Yes. Yeah. It's a complicated issue. IT is always very hard to discuss in sound bites, but it's the kind of a system where you can really look at how all the different pieces come together. And what the Census Bureau is doing is prioritizing what are the most important things they have to do to get the operations done, and doing those first and testing them, and sort of leaving all the bells and whistles for later if they can get to them. So I think by prioritizing and getting to the heart of the matter, they'll have exactly what they need to get the job done.
Is all the funding in place, or
Yes.
Is there a shortfall for funding?
No, all the funding's in place. The risk is time. The risk is not the funding right now. But I think by prioritizing, they'll overcome the time disadvantage that they've been working against from the beginning for the last couple of years.
Are you aware of any specific community organizations that the census is working with to count people and do the non-response follow-ups?
There are over 200,000 partners of the Census Bureau. I'm sure some of them are community organizations. The list is publicly available on the Census Bureau's website, so if you wanted specifically who all the partners are, they're all listed there for everyone to see. And as far as I know, they've all been very helpful in terms of getting the word out like we're doing today. The community partners are essential. They're trusted voices in their communities, especially for undercounted populations, and I think we're all very grateful that they're out there helping.
And what are the consequences for people who do not fill out these forms and are not around for the non-response follow-ups? What are the consequences for them not doing so?
The consequences are their communities will suffer in the long term. They may not think that they have individual consequences, like somebody's probably not going to come after them and give them the fine that the law calls for not complying with the census. But in the long run, their communities will be hurt by being undercounted. So the key here is not to threaten people, it's to make them understand that it's a very positive thing for them and their neighbors and their communities to participate in the census, as well as required by law and an important civic responsibility that we've all had since the beginning of the nation.
At the National Census Day Rally in Freedom Plaza, I'm Nicholas Balassi, CNSNews.com.